Hi everyone, this is Sandeep Anand. Welcome to my March 2021 edition of podcast. And for a change, I've decided to do a video-based podcast. So as always, there is a four sessions to the format. Starts with a company of the month or a stock of the month, and then it moves on to the wealth tip or a money tip. Third session is a book of the month, and finally, I end up with a personal mastery tip that I'm exercising or learning or have learned from other experts. So the first session, company of the month, it's a firm which is fast becoming a financial powerhouse in US, which started just as a merchant enabler for payments. And I'm sure we would have used their products or services somewhere in our life, like when we traveled in a cab, when we bought a coffee at a restaurant, or when we had to transfer money to our friends. And I'm sure by now you would have guessed the company. Yes, I'm talking about Square. And what you can learn from Square today is, this company was founded by Jack Dorsey, who's a visionary leader, and they have a CFO, Amrita Hoja, who's at the helm, who are strong believers of digital currencies. Square was in news recently for multiple reasons. One, for acquiring large amount of cryptocurrency, that is Bitcoin, almost worth new acquisitions worth of $170 million in the last quarter. They were in news for getting or obtaining the digital banking license, and they recently launched their first digital banking operation successfully. We would have all used Cash App. That's what I was talking about in the introduction. Cash App is fast becoming a dominant player in P2P transactions, P2P cash transfer, and it's also widely adopted by merchants because of their swiftness in the digital payment settlement. Square Cash App almost added 12 million users in just 2020. And according to their CFO, Amrita Huja, in the earnings report, she said Square Cash App has almost a gross profit retention of 130% over last 3 years, year after year, and their return on investments were also almost six times in the last 3 years. That is spectacular. The financial ecosystem that Square is trying to become is also expanding its horizons into other areas that includes, stock investing. You can buy equities through the app. You can do digital currency transaction through their Cash App, multiple other ecosystems. And now with the banking license and banking operations, Square is poised to become a big financial powerhouse in the next decade with addressable market of almost 75-80 billion dollars. Square's interesting aspect is their cost of acquisition of a customer for their banking operation is just $5 when you compare that against a standard bank which almost spends 150 to $200 per customer additionally to acquire. Now that's a significant moat that Square has created, and with the whole network ecosystem of merchants, customers, banking operations, it is becoming, or it will soon poised to become, and challenge all the incumbent banks in US. So money tip or wealth tip is the next session. Now, what if we get a bonus that was totally unexpected, or what if we get a lot of profit suddenly from our business operations, which is completely unplanned or unexpected? We'll be surprised, but beyond that, our tendency as human beings to splurge such kind of unplanned, unexpected money or cash flow, our tendency to splurge on non-discretionary or non-essential items is very high. And it's a famous term called can afford to lose mental accounting bias. Now, how to overcome this bias? It's by viewing such kind of unplanned or tuning our mind to receive such kind of unexpected cash flows and viewing it through a different lens by reinvesting or plowing it back to our business operations to grow further revenue, or plowing it, putting it into a wealth creating or a compounding asset like equities. So that is a way to look at, and that way, we will not splurge that money and lose it all, and then later repent for that, splurge or for that spend that we did. I have a very interesting book for the book of the month. And the term negotiation, what does it bring to your mind? Tough arguments, loud noises, money power, muscle power, etc. The negotiation term itself brings retreat on many of our minds, but it's something unavoidable or inevitable in our daily lives. Whether we have to negotiate with our kids for pursuing certain discipline, whether we have to negotiate with our corporate clients, whether we have to negotiate with real estate broker, whatever the case is, negotiation is part and parcel of our daily lives. So it's rather better to improve our negotiation skills. And I took this book to read because sales is one of my profession, and I wanted to see how I can improve my negotiating strategies or skills. And what if that comes straight from an author who's an expert in negotiating strategies? He's a strategist who has done with and dealt with many corporate negotiations. And it is Deepak Malhotra, who's a business administration professor in Harvard School. This book is called Negotiating the Impossible: How to Break Deadlocks and Resolve Ugly Conflicts. It's a very interesting book with a lot of real life citations that happened. That includes, drafting of the U.S. Constitution, resolving the Cuban Missile Crisis, or bitter deadlocks in NFL, etc. We have a lot of takeaway from this book, and I'm sure we will improve some amount of our negotiating capabilities after reading this book. That brings to the last session of the personal mastery tip, which is power of focus. That is the topic today. It's a very critical aspect of behavioral change that we need to focus on to achieve our goals. Last year, I think I read an article about creating something called as a focus zone to improve the power of focus. And the idea is very simple: to create a focus zone and dedicate 2 hours daily for achieving two or three large goals in our life, which is could be for a year or for a life, which are 4 to 5 top priorities. Create a focus zone and dedicate 2 hours daily for this 4 or 5 large priorities in our life. And to put in a very simple, that idea is like, when you are in the focus zone, everything else can wait. So that's the idea. And I found it very useful. I thought I'll share it here. And let me end this podcast with a very powerful quote from one of the legendary investors, Charlie Munger, who's also a partner in Berkshire Hathaway. The quote is: take a simple idea and take it seriously. So that brings me to the end of March 2021 podcast. See you again in April 2021.